Weird science
is the revolution.
Dawnrunner #2. Script by Ram V, art by Evan Cagle, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Aditya Bidikar. And the first issue, I like the first issue. It's very Kaiju #8. If you read manga, if you watch movies, it is very, well, it's very a lot of things, but Pacific Rim especially.
Yeah, definitely Pacific Rim.
So you get, and it's the combo of like, these mecha or Jaegers and the idea that you bond with them and mind meld with them, very similar to both of those. And so when you have all this going on, the first issue was kind of basic, but I liked it. And I don't mind Ram V going basic. In fact, the first issue I thought, where he has told me specifically in an argument online, I mentioned this a lot, that he doesn't write things for anybody but himself. He said he doesn't write things for fans. He doesn't write things for comic readers. He only reads. I felt like that first issue, he might have been writing, finally decided he has to do something to write for people.
Well,
and he was grabbing a bunch of
now. He can't rely on people buying Detective for any reason.
And I thought, like, okay, what he's doing is he's grabbing a bunch of these properties. So you're already hitting the ground running. You get the concept of what's going on. In fact, people even mentioned last time Iron Giant stuff. In this, he just goes full out. I mean, at this one point in here, Evan Cagle at the beginning just kind of laughs and says, screw it, we're going to have an Iron Giant toy that this little girl has in it. Oh, it's so neat. I
smiled so much.
And again, you're playing things with Iron Kings, and you're like, come on, like, just say Iron Giants, but I guess you can't really do that. But this issue does get a little more, obscure. You see a little bit of the fancy Ram V creeping in. I'm still in. I still had fun, but I think that how much I like the basic parts of the first issue, I kind of want more of those here, but I think this might impress the people who weren't as impressed with the first one that are more just Ram V fans. But you do start out in this weird play where we have our main character, Anita, and I thought this was a flashback to her being a child, right? The way they were playing it out. And I thought we were seeing this, but again, if it was, it would be straight up Kaiju #8. Because that's a lot to do with, parents being this, and I'm going to do that. But you end up with this little girl that we find out is Anita's daughter, who has a, pretty much a disease, a virus that's been ripping through people and really ends up, it's almost like, an autoimmune deficiency type of disease.
Yeah, it came from the Tetsa.
From the Tetsa. So again, that gives you a layer of why she would want to get involved. She's trying to figure out, like, in the meantime, she might be trying to do stuff to, maybe figure, who knows? But once you hear that it's involved with the Tetsa, then, things start to come together that way. But she can only see her certain times. You see, and she's called away. The girl has to go back to her hospital bed, while you end up having Anita say, like, don't be scared. Ends up saying, what did mommy say? Oh, when you're in the suit, you end up, you can't get hurt and it looks worse than it is and things like that. She's like, yep, that's good. Because she doesn't want her daughter to see her in the suit. Because this is, again, in a universe here that this is big entertainment as well. They end up watching them take down these types of, because of the whole deal and these monsters and things. So you end up, when the girl has this, it's Iron Giant. I mean, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. I mean, but it looks so cool, like you said. And it's a funny play, too, because at the beginning, and I think the art does a really good job of, you see from the back, me and you both thought that it was Anita's mom talking to her, but it's Anita talking to her daughter. And then when you wrap around to the front, you see that she's wearing a containment suit to be around her daughter, and it's kind of sad. But that's a really cool way of wrapping it around to then see that they're really not outside in a field. They're in pretty much a lockdown quarantine hospital that they have to take.
Yeah, they're in a simulation.
Yeah, it's a simulation. So it's one of those that you really feel bad for this little girl as well as Anita, who has to go off and ends up finding out that Mr. Andrew Lestern, the guy who's in charge of the company with all of the, the mecha, he's there to give her a lift to work, but it's not something that she would want. And you get right away kind of that tension that she doesn't like this guy. And then he's there. Oh, how's your daughter? And she's pretty sassy. I mean, she's the number one pilot and can kind of be like, screw them.
Yeah, she can throw her weight around.
Yeah, and she does it, but throws it around in a way of just being sassy. She doesn't demand more money. She doesn't demand, I want to do this or that. She says, you're bullcrap. Like, don't even bring keep my daughter's name out of your mouth. Right? Slap right there. Because she says, you don't care. And it really plays out.
There's only one reason why you're here.
Yeah. And Ram V, that's great character work. You don't need to have narration to say, she knows that he's booked. No, you have it right here of showing that we know Anita enough to know that she's kind of a straight shooter, sassy kind of deal. And she can see right through this guy. Says, you want something, spit it out. Don't say my daughter, you don't care. Tell me what you want. And the big thing is when she ended up, going and fighting in that last issue in the Dawnrunner, she ended up where she got knocked down. She was not even just offline, but everything. Like they didn't have any sort of things from her either. She was kind of dead, like gone. Basically, for this amount of time, 4 minutes and 18 seconds. And that's like the big play. What happened in that time? And she's like, and we saw that she was seeing some things. But she's not going to tell him. We know she's not. And she just keeps pushing the idea of like, what the hell do you care? Whatever. But in the meantime, you have this Lestern. He was playing PR and ended up announcing, because again, this is big to do. This is big entertainment. People are watching it. And then said, as a viewer, thinking of this as, say, a sport, this would get me more mad. Because the idea that, and also I'm guaranteeing you there's betting of how long this would take to take down something. And when they announced, we were playing with people. When she was down on the ground like that was all just for dramatic effect.
Just so she can have that ultimate comeback. Yeah,
the ultimate comeback. So to me, then it was like, well, then it's stage is not as fun. Like, they should have said, oh my God, you know what? She was in big trouble, but she fought back because she's like, play it that angle. Not the idea of, oh yeah, that was dramatic effect. I think that was a misplay by Ram V a bit, but you end up where you set up that she doesn't like this Lestern. We see Lestern, and really when you see the art, when they end up showing him, not a nice guy.
Oh yeah,
he's so evil.
He's an a-hole.
Oh, he's screaming at people at a point, but then even when they're in this limo and they go and show him with the rain coming down the window, he's just pure evil. You can see. And again, something that you are a fan of, it's starting to remind me even a bit of that Ripley, deal in the Aliens about them not telling her exactly what they want or what they want to do. And it's really good the way they play that out. But she wants to know what happened when she ended up going out, because she saw that what looked like other person's memories and things going on. And when she goes back to, the base and they're setting things up, they want to know too. You end up where they're trying to figure out themselves what happened. I'm talking the crew and the tech and everybody, because they don't know what happened with her, but they're trying to figure that out. Also, they're saying that she can't really get in the Dawnrunner. That's kind of been shut down for a bit. We do get to see the battle, though, then, while it was going on, even during the talk with Lester. Pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And that, you go from there.
No, that's fine. But at the end of the 4 minutes and 18 seconds, they finally inject her with like adrenaline or whatever, and she just completely decimates that Tetsa.
Yeah,
like just completely.
Nuts.
She is covered in its bloods and guts, and everybody's just cheering and screaming, and it's just it's real brutal.
It was a pretty brutal spectacle. It is what it is. And when they end up where all that going on, that wasn't like Anita though. And like you ended up like really, really going over the top. That's not something you usually do. What was going on with you? And again, it's one of those things, and she's a pilot with this, and you almost get that play too, is like what goes on in the Iron King stays in the Iron King. Like she doesn't know, and I think she's afraid. If I end up saying anything, they're going to try to do something.
Oh yeah, they're gonna lock me up and test.
Yeah, they're gonna lock and test. So she's like, oh, nothing. I kind of went down. I don't know what happens, but yeah, they're like, what happened in those 248 seconds that you went? Because when you came out, I've never seen you lose control like that. You annihilated everything. And like you said, though, everybody was going wild. Like now, in my mind, it screwed her. Now she's going to, like, they're going to have the next deal. The Tetsu's going to come. She's going to fight, and it won't be like this, and people are going to be bored now. Oh, man, that sucks, and all that. But and again, they show the end. They show where they kind of speared her away. But in the whole play of her trying to figure this out, she's ended up giving by her tech girl the idea of this guy, this Ichiro Takeda, who was, I thought it was just, didn't you think before it was just going to be, okay, that was a former pilot. And when it melded with the Dawnrunner kind of took some of the, but it actually was an experimental deal, this Dawnrunner, where it's combining a human brain with the
operating system.
Yeah, it's more than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be such a mystery.
I thought it was going to be like, oh, there was a pilot before her and he died in it, and maybe like a part of his like psychic impressions in there.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I thought. I thought because you are playing again with that concept of these mecha, these Iron Kings that become connected to the human host. They become, it's almost like a symbiote. It really is. Exactly. And the idea where, like you said, I thought this Dawnrunner was actually like when this Ichiro died, it even itself tried to, like, it grabbed some of it because it liked him so much. But this is actually a little more nefarious that it ends up being.
No, they took a dead pilot's brain and merged it with the operating system.
Yeah, they were using dead pilots to do this. And you see right away, this Ichiro, that's the guy that we saw some of the things going on. And she's like, okay. At this point, because this is oversized, at this point, I thought, this is a really good issue. Like, we're getting some things.
This would have been a cool cliffhanger right here.
Exactly. We're at about page 24. And I'm like, man, that was pretty good. Yeah, you didn't get any action, really. You saw some flashback action. Fine. But it's intriguing. And the idea of saying, here was the pilot, Ichiro Takeda, boom, cliffhanger to me. And I'm like, oh my God, that's cool. Like that. And we would still be talking about, man, I thought it was this and I thought it was that. So you keep going. We still have and it's great to get extra pages.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a little extra, like the pacing at this point was good for a total issue. It gets thrown off a bit by continuing. Might have been better served as another issue to kind of pick up the pace from there, because you have a lot of really big things. And to me, it kind of peters out a bit, like almost runs out of steam by the end of the issue. Still really good. But I feel like the pacing kind of petered out, and it wasn't a great way to end, because you're going to get a lot of talk. Then you're just going to get what seemed the randomest character just show up. Hey, I want to help you. And then
he was here last issue, but yeah, I agree. He's random.
You know what I'm saying, though? But in here, when he's there, hey, this is me. It felt like weird. That feels like another issue of things. But yeah, they end up talking about this whole deal. And even having that big play of this Ichiro, after that, it's explained where you have the connection. Oh, we used the dead pilot. That could have been a cool start for the next issue. But it's cool. We got extra pages. And when you have all this going down, she wants to get into it again to see what's going on, but it's shut down. They won't let it work. All these things going. But then you end up having the other guy, and you see him for a second, and then you see him again where he's yelling, hey, come back here. You know, I want to help you. I'm morally Vasan, and I can get you in the back door later. And they're going to do their own little experiment with this, which is not going to end up well, or could even be a dupe. I don't think so. This guy seems like he's kind of nice, but I don't know. I don't trust anybody.
He's very interested in learning more about the Tetsa and their like language and everything else. So I think he's willing to do whatever to her, because the big concern is like, oh well, if you mind meld, what will happen? Because we lost you already for 5 minutes when last time. What if we lose you forever? What if the machine shuts down? Like, what could happen? But this scientist don't care. He wants to know more about the Tetsa.
Yeah, he wants to know more about, and in the whole play of it, that could benefit her with her daughter as well. It's not like they're doing medical stuff that I think, and I don't think that she would understand it, but maybe something. And just the idea of throwing that this virus showed up when the Tetsa showed up, it does a bunch of things, including just why she would want to kill any Tetsa that comes by. So that works out, but the idea of getting some more information, and he's all fired up, and they sneak in later, and she's not going to be able to pilot the Dawnrunner. She's going to be able to interface with it. I think that makes sense. She's just going to get an interface and see what happens. And even then, she's already getting a connection with it it would be something that a pilot like this would get with these things, like goes up and it's like, hey, big guy, you beat up pretty bad, right? We got a couple scars, and you have this whole thing, and, to set that. I thought it was kind of nice. And she gets in, you see the process, almost like a Avatar type process, as well as they get into like a back to tank, they connect, and she ends up, turning on the things, and boom, all of a sudden, we're with this Ichiro.
Yeah.
And he is going through to figure out, and I love the way of these word bubbles of her and him and things that are going on. It's just all crazy. And it's kind of like she's not getting full interface, but it's getting, you know what I mean? It's done really well. And you see that there was some sort of disaster. You see, and I'm thinking it's when the Tetsu probably showed up. But he's there walking through rubble thinking, oh, my God, I forgot to find my wife, my daughter. They would be here at the school normally. Oh, my God. And then you do see a little girl come out from the rubble and say, Papa. And so you get that. You're assuming the wife didn't make it. At one point, I think he even kind of sees that, but he's so upset. And then his daughter ends up coming, and you see her. We don't have a connection yet of what this could mean, what it is or whatnot, but it's a pretty cool, again, it's a cool way, but it almost feels like, again, it's the cliffhanger. You want to center more on Anita and what's going on with her, not this Ichiro that we don't really notice. So it was a weird way to pace the ending, but it's still really good, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that the last few pages after we find out about Ichiro being the pilot or whatever the format, this should have just been the start of the next issue. You're 100% right. It should have just been the start of the next issue, and we find out, like, in the next issue, what's going on with Ichiro and what all went on with the Dawnrunner.
Yeah, I'm kind of, it would be a weird jump to do it, but at the end, here's the pilot, the dead pilot they use, Ichiro Takada. When you go to the next deal, I'd almost want to start with already seeing what Ichiro's doing. Like that would have been a cool deal, but you'd have to see her get into the Iron King or whatnot. But even so, you could have played where she'd already gotten in. I don't know. But yeah, by the end where you cliffhanger with this Ichiro getting his daughter, it wasn't really a great cliffhanger. The real surprise was seeing that the guy that she ended up seeing in those couple minutes that she went out was, in fact, a dead pilot that they used his brain. I thought that was a really good cliffhanger spot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That they didn't
that
go
would
with,
have been really good to end on.
Yeah, it's a shame that that's not it, but still good. And again, we're complaining about getting extra pages, and there's a lot. It's 30-some pages, so you do get a band that looks great. The art's really good.
There's one panel I do want to mention when she is seeing the end, when we get those extra pages, when she's like, slipping into Ichiro's memories. If you look, her face and his face merge together, and her eye matches his eye. So they're like, it's so cool. It's such a
really
cool panel.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I like that. I'm wondering if it gets to the point where she can actually like full out interact in this memory type space where you end up having the Dawnrunner kind of be able to work that through. And in the meantime, we might find out that that's more of the Dawnrunner kind of giving her info and maybe wanting to, bond. We'll have to see. There's a lot of intriguing things. Again, a lot of things that are cliche, but they work because it helps you set up things that we all know. So what would you give it?
I think I'm going to go 8 out of 10. I still really enjoyed this. There's, like you said, the cliffhanger per se wasn't the best. I do think it went on a little too long. I know, yes, it's extra pages, but still, we had enough of where we were at, but the artwork is fantastic, and I am intrigued. It wasn't as great as the first issue, but I'm still hooked. So
I am too. I'm in. I'm an 8 as well.
Weird science is the revolution.